I'm Lindsay Smith here with Saul Bookman, Espo, and Gerald Bourget. Gentlemen, I Love Wob wants to know how everyone's feeling today.
Good.
Feeling great.
No, I'm feeling good. Glad to be here. Excited for another Trade Machine Tuesday.
That's not how it goes. Try again. Sing it. Do it.
Trade Machine Tuesday.
There you go.
Don't try to
got caught in between.
You can't steal my thing, Espo, and change it into something else.
No,
that's what he does.
No.
He steals things. That's what he does.
That is some outright bullshit. So
like when I used to say, however, comma, he wanted to make it a show.
Yeah.
And he made like the whole show. And I was like, no, you're not taking my thing and making a show. That's why we had to change it to Southwest Bias.
What he doesn't say is he was going to be a key component of the show. I just thought it was a good term.
No, it's my saying.
I
own it.
Wouldn't you want your saying to be turned into a whole thing that you also get to be a part of?
I dictate that. Not him. I want to dictate. I make the rules. That's my thing.
Would you have come up with the show?
Oh, dear.
I'm
So
the
then it's
captain now, all right?
No, we changed it. We changed the name.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
Okay,
Yeah, it's better now. So.
However, comma.
Well, I guess we started a whole thing.
Yeah, we were good until you asked us how we were doing, I guess.
My bad.
That's tough.
My bad. We got a lot to talk about in today's show,
Which is
surprisingly
amazing.
enough. Yeah, I know, right?
Thank God.
First and foremost, let's talk about this article that The Athletic put out ranking their top 125-ish NBA players recently. Chris Paul and Devin Booker ranked in the top 20. Book did jump up a little bit from last year. CP3 pretty much stayed the same. DA, Mikal, Cam Johnson, and Jay Crowder also made the list. But let's talk about Chris Paul and Devin Booker first and foremost. They were ranked, I think, 18, 19, somewhere around there.
They did this weird tiering system. So they were in the 11 through 19 were listed at the top of it as 18 and 19. It wasn't overly clear, but that's the range. These two were 18, 19. You couldn't tell if they were tied because they did them together. It was weird.
So we're going to operate under the impression that they were 18 and 19.
Can you?
Well, they're in the 2C tier, which is 14 through 19. So in that tier is Chris Paul, Damian Lillard, Devin Booker, Paul George, and Rudy Gobert.
But in the written, they listed them as the first two in that tier, which I took as they were writing them in order of importance.
Who are in the tiers above them?
So the tier immediately above them, the 2B tier, is Anthony Davis, John Morant, James Harden, and Trae Young. And then 2A is Jason Tatum and Jimmy Butler. So I already have a problem with the tiering as it stands.
Yeah.
But
Well, that was the question. Do you have a problem with this ranking?
yeah.
I have for multiple reasons. I think Chris Paul doesn't deserve to be in that tier. I think he's actually high.
So Chris Paul is not a top 20 player.
I think he's a
right now.
top 30 at this point, maybe 35.
He just made All NBA.
Congratulations, he made All NBA. I don't think I don't think
That's
he's
a top 15
there.
honor.
I think he's getting there more on reputation than exact play.
Oh, I disagree.
That's the whole point of this conversation.
Are we talking about the
Welcome to
past
the
or are we
show.
talking about the future? What are we talking
We're
about?
talking about right now.
It was basically based off of last season, I think, right?
I would
That's
assume
how
so.
I
I
understood
assume
it
it's
anyway.
projecting forward a little bit at least as
if
far
we're
as like this
projecting
moment
forward,
in
I'm on
time.
board with what you said, Espo. If it's talking about the past and like this past season, then okay, maybe you can make an argument that he's top 20. I certainly could make an argument that he's top 20. But if we're talking about coming up, no, he's not top 20 anymore.
I still think even if it was this season, I think he's 25, 30. Like I think there's guys that deserve that nod.
Gerald's
I'm
got
I really
steam
flabbergasted.
coming out
Y'all
of
have
his
let a
ears.
5-game sample size completely
No.
outwash what happened during the regular
I'm
season.
not. You
People
gotta
are way too low on Chris Paul right now because of what happened in that Mavs
You got to
series.
take into account the injury that he missed significant time at the end of the season. There's
15 games.
Okay, 15 games is
Like,
significant time when you play.
Everybody missed like 15 games this season.
Gerald,
Johnson,
to defend
Devin.
myself, what I will say is like it's not necessarily that I'm knocking him for the 5 games. I am knocking him for playoff absence though, and the injuries playing a part in that. Not necessarily his play, but the injuries have had a big part to do with that. Whether it be COVID or the quad or getting dinged up against the Lakers and having that shoulder bother him the entire playoffs, like whatever the scenario is when it just feels like every time you've needed him the most, he hasn't been the clutch Chris Paul that we've known and come to love. In the 2 key series that you really need him to
In the 2
most.
that you lost, yeah, but what about the ones that you won, where he dropped 40-some on the Clippers to close them out last year, where he carried them past the Pelicans in Game 6? Like, we can't forget about the good just because the bad is more recent or because it held us back from winning a title. I get projecting forward why you might, knock him a tier or two, but like he was the Suns MVP candidate until he got hurt and Devin Booker took over.
Well,
like he was our best player for the first half of the season or so.
You're pointing to playoffs, and that is a very valid thing, but you can't just completely ignore the regular season either, because you do have to have some success in the regular season to get to the playoffs. And all last season was clutch time Suns. Don't worry, when you have Chris Paul and Devin Booker on your team, you're going to be fine in the final handful of minutes in this game. Like,
It's very true.
you can't discredit that.
It's very
We're not
true.
ranking these guys based on 5 minutes in the fourth quarter. If you are, Chris Paul's a top 5 guy in that list. I'm looking in totality.
Shit, he
and
might be
there
number 1 on that
there
list.
There were games where for 3 quarters he didn't do anything, and then he'd drop 11, 12 in the fourth that helped them close it out. And I get that that's of value, but looking at it in totality, and I'd argue the year before you could have said he was a top 15 player, but I just feel like the injuries, the trajectory of where it feels like this is headed with Chris Paul, I don't think I think there's at least 20, 25 guys better than him.
What I'll say is I think that because Chris Paul plays in spurts, and he does, you can't argue that. He plays in spurts. He doesn't do it for the entire game and maybe have the impact that some of these other guys are, or be able, like LeBron, right? Same age. You wouldn't put those two in the same category right now.
No, but LeBron is like a cyborg at worst, second best player of all time.
True.
But
A cyborg.
if we're projecting forward, I understand knocking him a tier or 2, but like in a season where he was just selected as a top 15 player, it feels
I'm only
crazy
knocking him
to
because I'm projecting
disregard it.
forward.
Okay,
Just to be clear.
If we want to talk, greatest guys 35 and older in league history,
Yeah.
he and LeBron are top 5, like in what they've been able to do in their age range. I'm not disrespecting how good Chris Paul is. I'm just looking at certain aspects and going, there's guys that I think would slot in there better. Now, I don't have a 25-person list to go through right now. If somebody wants me to do that exercise, I will at some point, but
By request only.
yeah,
though.
and I'm not doing it on the show. I'll talk about it on Twitter.
Woofsba in the chat is upset with us
Why?
because he will not stand for this CP3 disrespect. I get it, Woofs. Like, listen, you have every right to be upset with this, and you can screen record this and post this out there. It's absolutely fine. We'll probably do it ourselves anyway. But what I'm saying is projecting forward, I don't think that Chris Paul is a top 20 player in the NBA anymore. I think if you're just talking about everything before that, then yes, he was. But I do feel like I'm seeing signs of deterioration from his game. We've said it before a little bit, then he bounces back. But this time it just felt very, very different. Hopefully it's because of COVID and I'm completely wrong, and he comes out here and he just shits all over the NBA next year, which would be fantastic, and I'm here for it. I just don't think it's going to happen.
But look, if we're talking, top 5 leader, yeah, like there's aspects of Chris Paul that are still great. Clutch, his leadership. I just think there's 4 quarters to a game for a reason. It's the totality. It's looking at everything, and I don't have a problem that he manages the game and his energy, but I also think I don't think he's top 20 right now.
I'd put him top 20 at minimum. I mean, he led the league in assists, top 5 in steals last year. We talked about the clutch thing. I have a hard time putting him behind some of these guys on this list who may be better individual talents if you're just talking about that. But I do think that the team aspect of it, the assists, the other stuff that he does needs to be factored in, because that is what makes a superstar. And I'm sorry, if Rudy Gobert is in the same tier and we're demoting Chris Paul, that seems crazy.
True. But I guess the other conflicting part of this is all offseason we talked about DA. God, I'm dyslexic today, sorry. And how much more of a role that people think that he should play on this team. And a lot of people, I would say at least 80% of the people have said that they'd like to see more DA instead of more CP3. Well, there's a reason people feel like that, or they keep pointing to that. It's because they maybe feel like he's starting to fall off a little bit. So listen, it doesn't have to mean he goes from, a top 20 player to a top 100 player. No, but I do feel like he's on the downward slope of his trajectory for sure.
I mean, we're arguing 5 players here in reality for what I said. So
yeah.
And you're saying it should be team, but this is an individual list.
Just because it's an individual list, though, you can't discredit what he does for the rest of the team, because that's an individual aspect that he brings to a team, right? Yeah, his leadership affects the team, the way that he lifts guys up and helps them along in their career. I mean, look at what DA said about Chris Paul the first season he was with the Suns and the amount of information and growth he helped him with. That's still an individual thing that if you don't have Chris Paul, DA doesn't have that person.
Is Karl Anthony Towns in the list below?
He's not in these tiers, so he's either.
So I would argue that he's inching up on where Chris Paul is on that list. Cat has.
No, I'm not.
Look at what he did last year.
Hell no.
And how he helped lead Minnesota and what he does on the stat sheet.
Listen,
he led him to the 7th seed.
If I'm going to trash CP3 for disappearing in the playoffs, I damn sure I'm not going to elevate Cat for his shitty ass playoff performances. That motherfucker barely even showed up to the play-in.
Yeah, but you have a different standard that you're judging these guys on than I am. I'm not looking at it just based on his playoff disappearance. COVID's COVID. I'm not going to hold that against a guy necessarily.
But Cat didn't have that excuse.
No, I'm saying CP3. I'm not judging. I'm just not judging the playoff disappearance.
Karl Anthony Towns, for the record, based on these tiers, was in 3C. So in 3A, there was Bam, Jaylen Brown, Drew Holiday, Chris Middleton, Kyrie. In 3B, Bradley Beal, DeMar DeRozan, Donovan Mitchell, Draymond, Jamal Murray, Pascal Siakam, Shea, and Zach LaVine. And then Karl Anthony Towns is in that 3C tier. There are some guys on that list that I would put Cat above, but I don't think I'd put him above.
We have a super chat from Libertarian said, thank you for your super chat, by the way. If Jose Alvarado can cause Chris Paul such problems in the playoffs, he's not top 25 player.
What problems did he cause? Did you watch Game 6 or just look at the series averages for that?
He was a nuisance. He was a nuisance.
Yeah.
But when Chris Paul needed to, he was able to get his. Right. So I don't really buy that
drawing
either.
a few charges and getting a few steals.
This is a very spicy conversation, though, for everybody, because the chat is speaking the exact same way we are. There are people who are like, you're slandering Chris Paul, cut that out. There's people who are like, no, you're absolutely right. Chris Paul is not a top 20 NBA player anymore. So This is clearly not an easy agreement for everybody.
Jose Alvarado held him to 22.3 points, 11.3 assists, 4.3 rebounds on 57% shooting. Wow.
Hold on.
What problems he caused him.
He just absolutely put him in handcuffs. He had nowhere to go.
A Phoenix in the chat says Espo tripping. Cat nowhere near CP3's legendary status. This is the problem. I'm not talking about CP3's career in totality. I'm talking about an 82 game snapshot from last year. Like, if we're talking all time, Chris Paul is the best point guard in NBA history when you're looking at in totality, or up there. There's arguments that could be made for Magic, a couple other guys, but he's right there, Like, so I have no disrespect for his career in totality. Right. I'm talking about a very small snapshot.
Yeah, right now. I get it.
Well, I don't think we're going to find a common ground on this one.
Should we talk
about Devin?
Yeah, let's talk about Book.
Do you think that is a fair ranking for Devin?
No. List the players above him again one more time.
Above him, Trae Young, James Harden, John Morant, Anthony Davis, Jimmy Butler, Jason Tatum.
Oh, boy. Okay, I got two right off the bat that I want to just eliminate.
Go ahead.
Trae Young, number one. Like, you can't put Trae Young above Devin Booker. Trae Young hadn't done shit compared to Devin Booker. Number two, I will even put James Harden in that list because James Harden is missing half the goddamn season. He's inconsistent. He's overweight. He never shows up when his team needs him the most. Man, fuck all that noise. I know what James Harden has done and how brilliant he can be, but he's nowhere near as consistent. Listen, if people are going to torch Kyrie, they need to torch Harden for the same on-court performances that they lack in the last year.
Yeah. Look, I'd argue Jimmy, but look, Devin Booker finished 4th in MVP voting. That means the voters thought there were only 3 people better than him in the entire freaking league last year. And yet he finishes as 18, 19 on this list. I don't even know what the criteria is that would put you at that point, because it doesn't make sense how you get there.
That's what I wish we had, was like, can you please explain the criteria that you are basing this ranking off of?
Look,
and they may have. I didn't read the full article. I just did the Cliff Notes one.
It doesn't matter. There's no criteria in which you could wind up with Devin Booker that far down the list based on last season. There's no way in the world
based on last
Devin
season
Booker
or
isn't a top 7 guy after last season.
So the cool thing about this is that we used to, this is how much we've grown as a Suns fan base and also as a team, right? We used to be on the level of who's better, Booker or Mitchell. We've elevated way past that now.
Yeah,
we're on the same level as, okay, who's better, Booker or Tatum? And I will say this in Devin Booker's defense. Devin Booker showed up during the NBA Finals. He damn near won Game 5 all by himself in that fourth quarter. Did everything he possibly could do. Obviously, he had that little error at the end, but the 3 he hit right before that was like one of the most insane shots I've ever seen in my life. So I think just based off of that, when the chips are all out, who played their best? Devin Booker is not afraid to show up, and for that reason, I have him ahead of Jason Tatum. Plus, I hate the Celtics.
To your James Harden point too, James Harden plays half the court, right?
Yeah.
And Devin Booker has proven he's a two-way player in this league now. I'd argue Trae Young falls in that category. There's a lot of flaws in these guys above Devin Booker. I don't quite understand it.
Trae Young is an elite offensive creator, so I get that side of the ball, but he is a net negative defensively, and that's putting it nicely. He's one of the worst defenders in the NBA. James Harden has fallen off in the last year or so. I wouldn't put him above Book in that tier. John Morant is really, really good. I wouldn't put him above Devin Booker right now. That's way too much too soon for him. He's been to the playoffs twice and hasn't been past the first round.
It's kind of the same.
Second round.
It's kind of the same experiment or conversation we had about the All-Star game. Why do people feel like John Morant is better? Because he's got the better highlights. He's more exciting to watch, right? But that doesn't mean that he's the better player.
He's also far more active on social media, which I think plays a lot into this. Like, Devin has kind of an old school approach with social media. He's very selective about what he shares, and it's far and few in between. John Morant posts a lot more often, and it just is what it is. The algorithms will tell you, the numbers will tell you, the more you post on social media, the more people are paying attention, following, falling in love with, and so on and so forth. Like it just, I honestly wish that Devin would hire somebody to run his socials so that they could just post so much and build up that even more and just get that same affinity that guys like John Morant are getting.
Yeah. I mean, I understand that aspect of it. I also get why Book would be more standoffish because I think that's part of what makes him as cool as he is. But Anthony Davis, like, I'm sorry, that ship sailed like 2 or 3 years ago. Yeah. I would put him in the same tier as Jason Tatum and Jimmy Butler. Because you look at the 8 guys in the very top tier, it's Giannis, KD, Jokic, Curry, Embiid, Luka, Kawhi, and LeBron. When those guys are healthy, I would put all of them above again, Booker.
If this is based on last year, why the hell is Kawhi even there?
I don't think it's based solely on last year. I think it's a combination of just what we know about these players heading into this year. I think last year is part of it for sure.
We have a giant question mark on Kawhi Leonard.
Yeah.
Still, we haven't seen him play meaningful basketball in so long. Like, we don't even know if he'll be that guy. So I don't understand how he can rank that high on this list right now. You're basing it on a memory of him 2 years ago.
Not wrong. He's not wrong.
Oh my gosh.
What? He's not wrong.
Blue in the chat said Booker is going to look like Saul when he gets older.
You're welcome, Devin.
Blue, stop. We need Saul to fit out of the door after the show is over.
Is that an insult to Book or a compliment, for Saul?
I'm a very distinguished older gentleman. Thank you very much.
Chat's wilding, man. We got Allen Houston, Devin Booker comparisons going on. I don't know what. I don't know what the hell. You guys are on one today, man.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't think Book was respected enough in this ranking by any means. But again, this is a common theme we've literally seen his entire career, and I don't think it's going to go away until Devin wins a few championships and really comes out and shows the world without any doubt whatsoever that he is that guy.
Championship and MVP next year?
Yeah. It's going to always be this until he is legitimately, without a doubt, that guy. That's just kind of the nature of this situation.
Coda Kid, I think, hits the nail on the head because of Game 7.
Does he, though?
It's the last...
Does he hit the nail on the head because of one bad game?
No, but that's the
the perception. Okay.
As to why he wound up there on this list is because the last memory you have is the Suns getting their ass kicked by 40 in Game 7 of the second round, and Book didn't show up. I think that's, from a national perspective, that's what just sticks in their mind. It's what have you done for me lately? And the last thing Devin Booker did was get trounced. And I think that's what does it.
And if that's the case, that is so stupid in my mind because the kid is 25 years old. He had back-to-back 40-point games in the finals. Forget about the second round Game 7 loss. In the finals, a 40-point triple-double in the Western Conference Finals without Chris Paul. Why does that shit get forgotten? Like, why is that not the thing that we remember when we talk about where players? It's so stupid to me.
Believe me, you're preaching
It's recency
to the choir.
bias. It's what have you done for me lately? And I get it. It's the last game that we have from Devin Booker, but like, Jesus, the way that it outweighs everything that came before, it drives me nuts.
I mean, I think that also speaks to the significance of how bad that game really, really was, right?
It was, but everybody was bad.
No, I know. Everybody was awful. Like, even you saw Jalen Brunson talk about that Game 7 and talk about, man, I had no idea we would beat them like that. Like, I was shocked when we were up by 30 and a half. Like, what the hell? Like, that's how bad that game was. And I do believe, like, I think a lot of people also think that because they lost 4 of those last 5 games and in the way that they lost them, it was like one loss was worse than the next, and then it just got progressively worse. And there's no way to explain it. And when people can't explain it, they just are like, you know what? These two just suck. And they move on. And that's not quite right.
I also think that whether we want to admit this or believe it or not, I still don't think that national media pays enough attention to the Suns, regardless of what their record is or what they're doing. from a basketball standpoint. They just don't.
I don't think you could say that about last year, especially not the second half of the season, because Devin Booker was getting a lot of love for MVP on a lot of the talk shows, on First Take,
and he was also having tons of people say the most outrageous things on live TV about him as well.
Well, that's part of the coverage, though. They say outlandish things about LeBron. They say outlandish things about a lot of players in the NBA. That's just part of the deal. So if you want coverage, you got to take the good and the bad. And I think that's the thing is like for a long time, we weren't getting either. Yeah. And so like you got to take that. So I would disagree. I would push back a little bit on the second half of the season, how much publicity the Suns really got, because I thought they were the best team in basketball. They got a lot of love, and Devin Booker reaped the benefits of a lot of that. And then they got to the playoffs, and it all kind of turned around on them.
All I'm going to say is publicity doesn't necessarily equal watching games.
Yeah,
it could also be looking at a box score, reading some post-game recaps, and that being the homework that's
true.
done.
The producer said you've got to talk about the Suns, and then
the Suns are trending on social media. We have to capitalize on that. So do real quick. Spend 10 minutes looking up what happened in last night's game and talk about it.
Make an opinion.
Could very well have just been that.
Well, look, I think another thing about this, it's about clicks, it's about views, it's about generating interest. So they create these lists with that in mind sometimes. So sometimes you may slot a guy a little lower than you think to generate people like us yelling about it. So I think that's part of what's going on here as well.
Well, then they succeeded. So congratulations. But if you guys want to put some money where your mouth is as far as what Devin or Chris Paul or the Suns are going to do next year, you can do that on the DraftKings Sportsbook app. They have a lot of futures bets available for the upcoming NBA season. So download the DraftKings Sportsbook app right now. Use promo code PHNX when you sign up. And after you make your first deposit, you're going to get a risk-free bet up to $1,000. That's promo code PHNX only at DraftKings Sportsbook. Minimum age and eligibility restrictions apply. See show notes for details. I'm going to spring this on you guys, but we're going to do a pick of the week real quick. But I think I have one. Okay. So I learned yesterday that the Arizona Rattlers are on DraftKings. So you can bet on them to win the championship. And all I'm going to say is that over my time of paying attention to the Arizona Rattlers, they have not let me down many times. So I think it's a pretty safe bet. And if you're going to sign up, maybe that $1,000 risk-free bet, I think it's a plus 150 or minus 150. I don't remember which one. So it's not like it's a huge win that you're going to get. But if you put $1,000 on it, it might make you some decent money, and it's risk-free.
Put a mortgage payment down on that bad boy. Why not do $2K?
Just go ahead. So that's going to be my DraftKings pick of the week. We're betting on the Rattlers to win it all.
Very nice.
All right.
I'm here for it.
Okay. Now, another topic that has been super hot on social media is Kyler Murray's contract. And the fact that it had a clause in it that required him to study film for 4 hours each week, separate from the team required film sessions.
Independent study, I believe.
There you go. Now, this is a thought experiment. We know the Suns didn't have control over DA's contract because they matched it. But if the Suns did have control of DA's contract, do you think it would have been wise to add a clause like this, or any clause, really? And if the answer is yes, what clause?
Well, I got a clause already. Go ahead.
One thing that was mentioned in the contract language, too, was that Kyler Murray couldn't play video games or watch movies or do any of that film studying. That was actually in the language as well. So that kind of sparked the...
So did they have to have video evidence of this 4 hours?
Do they have?
And whose job is it to comb through the 4 hours to make sure he's doing it?
Yeah. Do they send a tutor over to his house to watch him on the iPad? Like, it's a grown adult you're paying $230 million to, and you're required to watch 4 hours of film at home. Anyways, so
what's yours?
I just absolutely hate. I hate this. I hate this with the fire of 1,000 suns. I just think this is the stupidest fucking thing people are hung up on. Like, who cares? There's a lot of ridiculous things in contracts that you probably have never heard of. Like, so what?
I have ridiculous things in my contract here. Like, it says I have to be nice to Espo 2 out of the 5 days of the week that we work together. Are you serious?
I actually had it as 4 out of the 5.
Yeah,
but
I had to negotiate that. I was like, listen, pause, too much. Yeah. Sorry.
You don't want to know the stipulations in Saul's contract. Those were crazy.
I gotta pat everybody on the back every 15 fucking minutes.
Listen, I asked for 10, so you're welcome. Okay.
It's just all about kissing babies and shaking hands for me. That's all it is.
Backpats. So.
Anyway,
if there was a stupid clause in DA's contract, I'm sure they probably would have put in no video games past midnight or some stupid shit like that. That's the one clause that I think they would have put in to DA's contract, since he likes to play till 2 or 3 o'clock in the morning, and apparently that affects everything that he does.
You know, the clause I would have put in DA's contract is that he had to be rude and have an attitude with media at least once a week, so people could stop saying that he's too nice of a guy and doesn't have enough edge to him.
That he's soft.
That he's soft. No, just be like, hey, fuck you, so-and-so reporter. That's a weak-ass question once a week just to show he's got some edge.
Yeah, I'm glad he doesn't have that in his contract, because I'm one of the three people that's there every day.
No, please no.
Only the TV guys when they show up once in a while.
Oh, yeah, that'd be whatever. But anyway, it'd probably be the video game thing. But I agree with Saul. It's such an infantilizing thing to like put that type of thing in a contract, treating him like a baby. Like, come on, man. Like, these are grown adults. If they don't take it seriously, I get it. And I get that you're investing millions of dollars into their future, but like, they should take it serious enough if you're investing that much money. I don't think, and you can't even enforce this shit anyway. Like, are you going to hire a babysitter? Yeah. What, are you going to void his contract if he doesn't get the 4 hours in a week? Give me a break.
They're not voiding $230 million. You wouldn't void $133 million or whatever it was to DA. These are adults.
Right.
And it's a generational thing too. This generation has grown up on gaming, online gaming, doing that. And I think it's just a different mindset. And the old stodgy white guys running these leagues and commenting about it have to accept that. Playing video games isn't preventing them from doing anything, right?
I will say this. Kyler and DA are in two totally different worlds when it comes to the requirements of your contract, specifically the requirements to play quarterback in the NFL versus being the center in the NBA.
Right.
Like, it's just a completely different world. So I can understand and even fathom why the Cardinals would put that in there if they felt like he wasn't recognizing things in defenses that he should have. Whereas DA, he can study fucking tape all day long, as much as he wants. He still is relying on everybody else to try and get him the ball. So there's only so much that he can do anyway.
And I guarantee, based on what we've heard from DA and Chris Paul about how Chris will pull him aside or DA will take it upon himself, like, he studies probably 4 hours of film on his own time as it is. I don't know the exact time, but it sounds like he does his own homework as it is.
Well, Icon with a super chat also mentioned something similar to that. He said, you don't get better at defense every year by not studying. And then went on to say, I hope DA never talks to another reporter in his career, except for Gerald Bourguet.
Yeah. Well, that's rough,
I'm going to add that into the super chat. Gerald is the exception.
Yeah. Gerald's always classy.
But I do understand this idea, right? Like, he agreed to give a journalist his time. And it wasn't even just like a small amount of time. I think they actually sat down and played video games. It was probably a solid hour of his time for this special, this feature that he wrote about DA. But the timing of which it was released, the way it was written, it just painted DA in a sour light. And it's like, okay, if DA was doing you this solid, maybe you should have returned the favor in some capacity.
The timing, I agree with.
But that's not on the writer. That's on
if an NBA player tells you that he gets about 2 hours of sleep every night because he's up late playing video games, that's...
But it wasn't...
honestly, I think they're doing him a favor by not making that the prominent point of the article.
No, they did. It was the first line of the article. It was the first line of the article, and it was also, when I went back and read it, because when we had the conversation about DA, I hadn't read it in its entirety, and I went back and I read it, and it was implied that this was after games on off days or practice days the next day around, not the night before a game. It was implied within that article, if you understand the schedule of NBA players, But if you don't understand the schedule of NBA players, which majority of people who are reading this article don't, everyone took it as the night before a game, DA is staying up till 6 o'clock in the morning.
Right.
And that's why DA plays like this sometimes and not like this other times.
Right, but I'm confused. So how is that on the writer not doing them a solid when it's just people not reading the article?
Instead of being implied that it was before an off day, if he would have said after games before a practice or an off day, DA does this, I don't know that it would have gotten as much heat as it would have.
But it said it in the article, didn't it?
It didn't.
It clarified that?
It didn't. No. It was just implied, like I just said. If you know the schedule, you get that. But if you don't know the schedule, which majority of fans don't, you don't get that. I'm not coming at writers, Gerald. I promise.
No, I'm not. But I read the article.
I'm just saying this article I felt like could have been a little bit more forthcoming with some of, and I'm not throwing shade at this writer either. He probably didn't think it was going to get this much flack. But if he had shared a few more pieces of the details, maybe it wouldn't have gotten as much flack.
Maybe that's my blind spot, because when I read it, I thought it was a couple months ago now or whatever it was, but I thought it was pretty clear as to when he was staying up late.
Because you understand an NBA schedule.
And that's what I'm saying. That might have been a blind spot, but I could have sworn that it clarified that. But it did say, like, on a lot of nights, he's getting 2 hours of sleep.
Which
regardless.
So are so many other NBA players, except for they're not playing video games.
2
they're
hours?
Strip clubs.
Yes.
They're on both.
2 hours.
Yes, Gerald.
On a nightly basis,
Dude,
not 2 hours. On a nightly basis, you guys are insane if you think they're only getting 2 hours of sleep every night.
On
a nightly basis,
insane if you think
2
that's
hours.
happening.
No. That was the biggest point of the article. That was the biggest reason that I had a problem with it, not the video games.
When I was in Old Town, James Harden was here for one night, and he was at a club right down the street the night before they played the Suns.
Until what time?
I was out there at
6 in the
1:30,
morning.
and he was still there.
And
So-
what do we talk about James Harden? How he shows up out of shape, how he fell off in the last year.
I mean, he's been.
We can't have it both ways
Look,
if we're going to talk about, they all do this, and then
I think it's a disservice to say they all do this.
on a nightly
there
basis,
is-
no.
There is
DA's not doing this on a nightly basis either. That's what I'm saying. The article and the conversation around this implies that DA is doing this on a nightly basis. I don't think he is. I don't. I personally don't. Maybe often, yes, but so are other players doing other things.
But I thought your complaint was that it made it seem like it was like that.
It did, but he's not, is what I'm saying.
Okay.
I'm complaining the article made it seem like he's doing this every night when he's not.
Okay. I'm going to have to go back and read the article because I want clarification
Okay, we'll read
on
it
this.
after the show.
What if he sleeps 7 hours during the day? What difference does it matter how many hours he sleeps at night? That's the thing that's missing here.
I've already made that argument.
I know. It's just the whole thing is asinine. And it would have been hilarious and embarrassing, just like it is for the Cardinals, if they had to put some kind of clause in his contract about how many hours he sleeps, how much video games he doesn't play, he can play, how many hours he has to spend in the gym or watching film.
Right.
Like it's ridiculous that any professional athlete has had to have that clause in their contract, and it's ridiculous. I screwed that word up, but ridiculous that any athlete is getting scrutinized this much about one small thing said in an article. And the irony is that Kyler Murray has this clause in his contract because of the same damn thing. He said he didn't study film very much at all in a New York Times article that came out, guess what, right around the time the playoffs started. So these two similar articles have caused a world of hurt for two athletes because they were honest, which then leads to players not wanting to be honest anymore and fans going, well, these guys aren't honest enough. I wish they would open up and talk. Well, there's a reason that they don't, because they take shit when they do.
Right. No, I get that. My point was just I don't think that the majority of NBA athletes only get 2 hours of sleep on a nightly basis. There's no way.
I don't believe that at all. I
would say 25%.
All players majority of players have a similar schedule to each other, but their drink of choice, if you will, can vary.
Right.
Whether it's video games, whether it's clubbing, whether it's doing whatever
and I don't
else.
care about the video games part of it. I don't care
I think
about that.
they're all pretty similar as far as their schedules, sleeping, practicing, and otherwise go. That's what I'll say.
Look, I think I said it before. I'd much rather have a guy staying up until the wee hours of the morning playing video games than at a strip club or out drinking or whatever other vice you could have. Video games seems like it's on the lower end of the spectrum on shit that's going to make you a worse athlete.
1,000,000%. Plus, I forgot who it was. Maybe it was Bill Walsh or somebody like that. Says nothing good ever happens past 2 o'clock in the morning. So
is that Ted Mosby from How I Met Your Mother?
Said that too, but it was a
Bill Walsh.
It was
not How I Met Your Mother.
But he's in there.
It was on How I Met Your Mother.
But like, so yeah, when we're ranking things in terms of the worst things a player can do to, you know, things that mean nothing, video games to me mean nothing. Like I'm okay with him doing what he's doing.
So I have one question from the chat. Easy. Are you calling me Chelsea as a insult, or did you not know my name was Lindsay? Just question.
I didn't know.
Let me know.
I didn't know either. And I was
Let
like,
me know in the chat which one it is, just so that we're both on the same page. That's all. Icon has another super chat for us that I'm sure the Raiders would rather their players play video games.
Yeah, would you rather have the 1987 Suns who were all on cocaine, or a team with DA playing video games until 2 in the morning? I think they
didn't even have fucking video games in 1987, did they?
I'm saying, which would you rather have in general as a fan?
Maybe they thought they were playing video games.
Obviously, we're going to take.
Hey, we're going to go crazy comparisons. Why not?
Easy said, my bad, Lindsay. Only got 2 hours of sleep last night. That was a good
one.
Nicely
done.
Nice boy or girl. That's
that
funny.
was solid. Speaking of drinking, if you'd like to have a beer or two, as long as you're enjoying responsibly and getting good night's sleep, highly recommend Four Peaks Brewery. You can pick up their beers at your local grocery store, or you can head on down to their... Damn it with the chat.
The chat's been on one today.
It's only when she's an accountant.
Oh, my
Dagoon says
God.
she's not Chelsea after 7
That's a 4
p.m.
Peaks. We're going to be live there all day tomorrow, the entire PHNX crew. So come on down, hang out with us on your lunch break or after work. Or if you have the day off, you can spend all day there with us. They have obviously awesome beer that you can get on tap there. They also have really good food. And today is the last day, Tuesday. Today is the last day to enter our Toast of the Month sweepstakes at gophnx.com. And if you win that sweepstakes, you're going to get a $50 gift card to Four Peaks. You're going to get a t-shirt of your choice from our locker, as well as a PHNX annual membership. So make sure that you guys do that.
Josh Hunt in the chat said, I know Michael Jordan would have been on Poker Stars all night, which is so funny because there's literally a story out there with EJ talking about how MJ and EJ and Tom Chambers stayed up all night long playing poker, and then MJ torched him for 45 the next day.
But that's the weird thing. We idolize it and mythologize Jordan for all this behavior.
He plays like Michael Jordan. That's the reason. Because he plays like Michael Jordan. If DeAndre Ayton played like Michael Jordan, we wouldn't give a shit. We would marvel at it.
DeAndre Ayton
but he doesn't.
Played
That's the difference. It's
17
literally the
and
difference.
10, all right? Why do we act like this guy averages 9 points and 4 rebounds, for Christ's sake?
We don't, but
everybody does.
That's not Michael Jordan, though. That's the difference.
Look, no, I think it's asinine. It's because Michael Jordan didn't play an era of social media, 24-hour coverage, and everybody dissecting every little fucking thing. So there's this mythology about Michael Jordan that's there, rather than in real time, people would have been making the same questions and asking, what kind of problems did Michael Jordan have? Does he have a drinking problem because he's out there all the time? Is he addicted to gambling? These things would have spiraled. It would not have been myth. No, it was not like this.
Not to this degree.
When he got
the gambling stuff and how they found out that he went to the casino until 3 or 4 o'clock in the morning.
It was celebrated.
Not at that time. He was getting vilified across the country. It was in the New York Post, of all places, to not get caught in the middle of the night. It would be New York during the Eastern Conference Finals, which was happening, and they got past it in 7 games. So a lot of people doubted about, could they have won in 4 or 5 games if he wasn't out partying all night and stuff like that. So he had the same doubts, just not to the level and toxicity of social media.
But
like
that's
we
because
had.
social media doesn't exist.
When the Suns roll off six out of 8 titles, DeAndre Ayton will have this mythology around him for playing video games and only sleeping 2 hours.
That's
my
point.
Yes.
That's
my point.
No, we will.
Yes.
We absolutely will. Like my man was out there just absolutely schooling fools on NBA 2K or COD or whatever, and then still dropped a 50 burger on your ass, and we won the title. Yes, he will still be talking legendary status like that if that happens.
That's like if Michael Jordan played Dungeons and Dragons till 6 in the morning rather than going playing poker and drinking back in the day.
I can't help my guy.
I think if the Suns won 6 out of 8 titles and DeAndre Ayton played like Michael Jordan, then we would not give a shit about this.
It's not just Jordan, though. It's a lot of guys in that era. Like, okay, Dennis Rodman is still like, oh, he did all these crazy things. He went to Vegas in between 2 finals games.
He won 3 championships in a row.
And multiple defensive player of the year.
He got in the head of some of the best players in the NBA, like Karl Malone and stuff. Like,
I didn't.
What? What are we talking about? Listen, if you win, what do we say? What do I always say? You're only as faithful as your options, right? Mm-hmm. And if you win, you get to do all the shit that you want to do, as fucked up as it may be, as long as it doesn't hurt anybody.
Look, okay, if the Suns had won the title against the Bucks, we're still talking about this shit with DeAndre Ayton.
Josh brings up a really good point. He said if MJ was playing Dungeons and Dragons, everyone would have said Jordan was selling his soul to the devil for his talent.
He did.
That is so true, though, especially at that point in time. Woo-hoo-hoo. That's funny. Good. I like that comment, Josh. That was my kind of humor. So here's the thing. Espo, I blame you for this whole thing while we all got mad at each other because this was your topic idea. Mm-hmm. So way to go, Espo.
And that's why I'm the head of content, baby.
And because of that, we don't have time for both segments that we have left because we are already 47 minutes into this show. Mm-hmm. So you guys get to pick. Are we doing screenshots or are we doing Trade Machine Tuesday?
Trade Machine.
Is there an ASU? Is there an We can keep going.
Nope, we're only doing one of the 2.
We'll save one for tomorrow.
So we're going to save screenshots for tomorrow?
You can't do Trade Machine Tuesday on a Wednesday.
I thought you were the head of content.
Oh, we can
let the host just completely debo you. Look at that.
I looked at the GM and you looked like you were falling asleep. So I went, you know what?
I organize everything and I let you guys go with it and I just sit back and enjoy the ride. That's what I do.
Hey.
Train Machine. Oh, God. Train Machine Tuesday.
Look, hey, Phoenix, extend the time. Come on, man. See? Joel. Both, I got time.
Well, Rach said it's time for some OGs because things are getting a little too on edge up in here. So we're going to do Trade Machine Tuesday. And today it's going to be brought to you by OGs. Our friends over at OGs just launched their first ever limited edition seasonal flavor, Pina Colada. You can check out OGs online at ogsbrands.com and on Instagram at ogsbrands. You can also find their products at your local dispensary, but you must be 21 years or older to purchase. I do love that OGs got in on the KD whole thing the other day because Saul had made this fun little piece of content saying, hey, if you come here, we'll get you a lifetime supply of OGs.
The roster
Not
reaper.
Confirmed. Yeah. But then OGs did confirm it. If KD comes to Phoenix, they'll give him a lifetime supply of OGs.
Let's go, KD.
Another reason why you might want to come to the Valley.
Nuclear option. Saying. Let's do it.
All right. Trade Machine Tuesday. I hope this doesn't let all of you guys down.
This is going to be such a letdown right now.
In the chat are like, give the people what they want.
Such a letdown.
Well,
it's not what you want.
People are rubbing their hands right now like Birdman, thinking, okay, what kind of trades does Gerald have today? What do we got today?
How does it work under the cap?
A little less of a trade, more of a gift. But the question is, if you had to trade and or gift one thing to another sport from basketball that would make that sport better, what are you giving?
I thought we were doing it the reverse, where we could.
You're the one who literally wrote that in the chat.
I wanted her to do that.
No.
Look, Lindsay's just
again. These ideas were thrown in the chat, and all I said was, "I'm good with whatever."
Lindsay just drives the car off the road.
I said, "Okay," in the chat. I'm right here. I have the receipt.
She's got the receipt.
This is coming from me. Okay, are we trading any sport to any other sport? or all basketball things to other sports to make them better, or other sports things to basketball to make it better.
I said other sports.
Espo said basketball things to other sport to make it better. Literally what I just said, is it not?
You're just misreading.
Am I?
Uh-huh.
How? Explain, please.
Alternate facts.
Explain things.
That's all he's doing. Don't feed into the trolls, Lindsay. Don't feed into the trolls.
Y'all picked the right day. I am on one and I'm ready to fight all of you.
Don't say me. I'm just chilling.
Well, I went for Gerald earlier. Now it's Espo, so you better hope you can last in these last 15 minutes, Saul.
I'm staying in my lane today, Chelsea.
Joel said, bring Lindsay back. We don't want Chelsea.
What's happening?
I would trade 5-on-5 from the NBA
Oh my God.
to football.
Okay.
Give me a faster, more wide open. I don't need offensive linemen. I don't need. give me 5-on-5 football and run it out there and see fast speed, more open field, quarterback getting the ball around.
I would trade penalty boxes and put them in the NBA for any flagrant fouls.
That's a fun
Okay.
one.
Yeah,
You just
so that
broke
way.
the rules though.
So that
You did
way.
break the
Yeah, you went the
rules.
reverse way.
You went the reverse way of what Lindsay
I'm
told us
sorry, I
we're
was so
doing.
fucking confused with all these stupid ass rules.
Yeah,
I couldn't fucking follow along.
Chelsea can't
Anyway.
get this shit right.
So 2 or 5 minutes in the penalty box, you can't play on the court, and the other team has to play with 4 players.
I mean,
I'm
that
down
would be
for that.
kind of fun. Okay, since we're already breaking the rules, I'm going to follow suit and break the rules as
Oh
well.
my God.
I think, you know how like fighting in hockey is acceptable, and fighting in baseball, sometimes they're like fun and other times it's like, okay, what are we doing? I think you should make fighting in baseball legal, but because hockey players have pads and a helmet that kind of protect them a little bit, you have to make the baseball players both have a left and a right-handed glove, and they have to fight with those gloves on. I think it would be so funny.
That would be funny.
I feel like the highlights on social media would be well worth the chaos.
Jared,
Yeah,
do you have
that'd be
one?
solid. I was just going to say, let's take the 82 regular season games of basketball and send them baseball's way, because I can't watch 160 some games of
that's
that
good.
shit.
That's a good one.
I thought you were going to reverse that.
No,
Dude, I
no,
can't
no,
watch
no.
162 basketball games.
No, that's a really
Our
good
season is now 5 years long.
Yes.
What I think would be interesting is in basketball is if you took the goalie from hockey and you allowed one really tall guy to stand in front of the hoop. Doesn't have to go down on offense, can't go down on offense, but there's a tall goalie that can always stand in front of the hoop. I'd put Taco Fall there, just standing there constantly. It'd make it more interesting.
That would be the worst idea of all time. What kind of fucking rule would, like, just the stupidity by what Espo just said blows. We would have like
It
8 to
worked.
6 basketball games.
It worked.
It's the dumbest shit I've ever heard. Get this
worked.
man off the show right now.
Oh, man.
What? These games would be terrible to watch. Devin Booker, crossover. Oh, shot. Boop.
I was just going to say I'm not a fan, but he went the full, like, Billy Madison, we are all dumber, having listened to
Yes. So true.
Bring back slam ball. If you want to resurrect a sport.
Slam ball was fun.
Trade me baseball for slam ball.
I'm down with slam ball.
Slam ball was fun.
Charles has a good one. They said, I need Charles Barkley commentary in all sports unfiltered.
Yes.
That would be super fun. I
I
feel
would-
like the NFL is trying to get there with like their former player casts and things. But let's take it up another notch.
I feel like these leagues are missing a golden opportunity to have an additional stream of revenue for an unfiltered channel.
Boom.
Like, I mean, I swear I would pay $100 freaking a year or $200 a year just so I could hear LeBron really talk the way LeBron talks on the court. Because he doesn't say, oh, hey, good play, buddy. No.
Well,
He's
could you-
talking shit and he's talking trash and he's cussing at dudes.
Right.
And we got a small taste of that from the bubble because it was a little bit easier to hear what players were saying
Right.
during those broadcasts. So I think that really stirred up a desire.
Give us, like, an uncensored, player-run, unfiltered HBO broadcast. Like,
Yeah, give me
That'd be
then
great.
the announcers are able to. Could you imagine Barkley being
Oh
able to
my
actually
gosh.
say what he wants to
Oh
say?
my gosh, that would
Oh.
do the announcers thing takes it to a whole nother
Oh, yeah.
level. Like, what the fuck was John Morant doing on that
Yes,
play?
right.
That might be just some stupid ass basketball. What the fuck, man? Really?
Wouldn't you
Is that
not-
what he's doing right now?
Would you
Jeez,
not
I would
pay
love that.
like $300 for
Oh my
an NBA
Oh, yeah.
package that has that kind of broadcast?
and you'd break in sponsorship money, HBO partnership
yeah.
money.
Oh,
like,
that'd be so
it'd be a
beautiful.
win-win.
Hey,
Maybe maybe we should do a playback this year and we act as the commentators.
Ooh.
That'd be fun.
And bad lip read what the players are saying too. We can say that too.
Yeah, because we've already seen, like, someone mentioned, Icon in the chat mentioned the ESPN Manning broadcasts, like the even like with something as off the wall as like the Nickelodeon NFL broadcast. Like, people eat that shit up, the alternative side, because regular broadcasts have become so rigid. And on the NBA side, they're always so negative and like boring, and you don't feel like you learn anything from the game.
Yeah, and,
so
and I like our local broadcasts. I mean, I like
local broadcasts.
I like Kevin Ray and Eddie Johnson, but there are some times where they shove so much of the other stuff, like, you know, obviously the advertisements and things like that, where I'm like, okay, now it's feeling like a very what do you call it?
Corporate.
Corporate
packaged, like
and
sterilized,
and it's sterilized. That's the word.
Yeah.
That's exactly what happened down at U of A. You know, when I was growing up watching U of A basketball games, they had like this pageantry and the band would play right before tip. Now they have like this fucking like, you know, montage that goes on, and it just feels very superficial.
It's like a production, and it's
and it's just the organic nature of the Manning cast is what people I think are they are like us. They make you feel like you're sitting in the room with them talking all the shit, and that's the beauty of it.
Could you imagine you and I have, and Lindsay have had talks with EJ that aren't on mic, and that you're just having EJ on an unfiltered broadcast
on a whole nother level
would be the damn funniest thing you. I actually think he would put Charles Barkley in a run for his money if EJ could just be, uncensored.
EJ and Corey Williams are the two most brilliant basketball minds I have ever come across, and they talk so much shit, and I love them so much because of it.
It'd be great.
Somebody suggested trading you and I for a bag of chips and Coke.
It sounds pretty good.
Right now, I feel like I would make that deal.
Yeah, you would.
My tummy's
You would
grumbling.
make that anytime.
Yeah.
Let's not act like that's just today.
Like 155? Yeah, I make that trade.
Debatable. Icon with another super chat. Thank you so much. Said we need a Suns PHNX game companion broadcast.
You got it.
Let's
Opening
do it.
night. Opening night next year. We're gonna do it.
Bally's would never.
No,
Bally's would never.
we can just live.
Oh, I know,
We
but
just do
they're
it.
talking about a companion broadcast,
yeah.
which means you're actually on the screen.
No, we napalmed any chances of that back when my podcast used to be on Fox Sports Arizona.
Yeah.
So.
No, we have a good
Way to
relationship.
go,
with the Bally's.
guys.
Brett Hansen, shout out.
Brett, I love Brett
I have
over
to
there.
sneeze.
But can I share with you? Can I share with you guys something that
Play on the fucking
my
play.
football coach used to say?
What's that?
My high school football coach used to say this. Sometimes in life you work hard, but you still got overtime. I think we should do the screenshot.
No, absolutely not. I refuse.
Oh man.
All right.
It is not time for some screenshots, but COVID-19 vaccines are free for everyone 5 and older. Those 12 and older are also now eligible for a booster. Visit azhealth.gov/find-vaccine for a location near you. Apologies to those in the chat who are very disappointed by this week's Trade Machine Tuesday. We will be better next week. You can hang out with us. Listen, I was at least trying to make them feel better.
People. I've run out of ideas. I've put all the trades out there. It's up to the Suns to make them happen now. Shit.
We're gonna start trading
spent.
like second round picks for like 15th player on the roster.
Thank you all for tuning in. We appreciate you as always. Don't forget, tomorrow we will be live at Fort Peaks. We'll still be live on our YouTube, but if you want to come hang out with us in person, that is an option as well. Until tomorrow, you can follow me on Twitter at LindsaySmithAZ. You can follow Saul at Saul_Bookman. You can follow Espo at Espo and Gerald at Gerald Bourget. Espo, take us home.
I have no clue what you just watched or listened to. Ahoy, ahoy.
Hey, yo, my lifestyle is retro. Tell the Phoenix Metro. Megas in control and he ain't never gonna let go. PHNX though, Lindsay, Gerald, Espo. Saw past the ball, we here to turn up the tempo. Got to understand me, I'll always wreck the family. Rally in the valley like Dan G. No